Welcome to the adventures of Molotov, a flaming redhead who burns first and is incapable of asking questions. You join us on day 18, but if you wish to go back and check out the previous works, I'll leave them linked in the description. Once I finish building what I can with the logs I've already chopped down, I head off to the rich side of Rosewood to hopefully loot some stuff to make my house prettier, obviously ignoring the slight fender bender en route. Although I completely forgot about the hordes I dragged there previously while trying to loot the bar. And it turns out the bar is actually still on fire, so that's great. Plenty of booze I'm never going to get to drink or craft into incendiaries. So I come up with a plan to simply lure the hordes away with the siren on the fire truck. However, it doesn't seem to be working. What? It's not letting me. Have I broke something? I think I might have broke something. Yeah, I wonder how that could have happened. Not knowing what the keyboard shortcut for the horn is, I need to come up with a new plan. But as I backpedal back to the field I've burnt down twice already, I start to question my own strategies. I shouldn't bring the zombies to the campfire, I should bring the campfire to the zombies. But first I'll have to deal with a small gathering that's been dragged here by my engine noises. And I wouldn't want to waste precious fire on a pathetic horde like this. I can then craft myself a campfire kit from the 2 spare logs I've got left over, and once I've collected plenty of scrap wood from the tables I've demolished while grinding my carpentry skill, I have to take another nap as Restless Sleeper once again slaps me in the arse. Although waking up past 7 means this day has been a complete waste of time, so I have a wash while I still have the water on, then read a book while I'm sat on all the other books to prevent boredom. We then wake up bright and early on day 19. It's time to properly clear out Rosewood. And seeing as the siren isn't working on the pickup, I decide to walk into town as walking is a great form of cardiovascular workout, and they do say cardio is crucial for surviving Zombieland. My plan is to set up the campfire right in the centre of this intersection and lure all the zombies towards me with a shotgun. However, there is way too many zombies for that plan to come off successfully, so I'm gonna need yet another new plan. Let's see how we get on. Nope. Am I going to hell if I set a campfire up right next to a church, which is almost certainly going to lead to it being burnt down? Almost certainly, but that doesn't stop me from trying and failing. With that failure, I loop around a nearby house and hop the fence, and once I've dealt with a few Zeds that have tracked me down, successfully set up the campfire in the middle of the intersection. I can then start yelling at the top of my lungs, "Come on then, butt tracking, come get me, is it?" Although it seems I'm not loud enough, so I whip out the shotty. And as the first hordes start to approach me, I keep on blasting to make as much noise as humanly possible to hopefully attract the most amount of Zeds possible. I then run about for 5 while the hordes start to alight and spread their fiery goodness amongst themselves. But rather predictably, this escalates quite quickly, so again I loop around the nearby house and throw myself blind over the wall. This can't go wrong, chat. This can't go wrong. No! Oh, Jesus. That almost went very wrong. Why did nobody warn me about that? I continue blasting my way through, although I didn't exactly bring enough ammo for this entire fight. Fearing I'm about to be cut off, I dip down an alleyway, and that's when I spot it. A parked up ambulance. This will be our saviour and bringer of destruction. But with no time to hotwire, I immediately go for plan B and turn the sirens on to attract as many as humanly possible. That should drag all the zombies around, including the ones already ignited from the campfire, and hopefully cause an even bigger spread than COVID. Unfortunately, that doesn't work, as apparently I'm a tastier snack than that ambulance's siren. Gotta light the fire, let it go, let it go, let it go. And that singing voice alone just makes this entire thing so much harder. With everyone now on me, I loop around the church and rush down the back alley like I'm a Catholic priest in the 70s. But no choir boys were harmed in the making of that joke, so I'm probably still getting into the eternal beyond. I start heading southbound through Rosewood, blasting the shotgun at the flaming Zeds, while the town burns around us. Certainly wasn't my main intention, but sometimes things just work out really well. And the bank is now seriously on fire. Much easier than dropping a molly through the front window. Down with capitalism. After heading back to the car park where the ambulance is located, I realise the sirens are no longer on, but there's still a massive horde there and barely any flames whatsoever. So I toss a molly that I brought with me, which does a much better job of igniting the hordes. I continue to lap around Rosewood, blasting the Zeds with a shotgun, and the now fully ignited hordes stampede their way through everything. Everything this horde touches shall burn, I just need to outlast the ashes. We take another lap around town with with the undead quite literally hot on my tails. That is until our hunger comes back, and I've already eaten all the food I brought with me. I guess that's what happens when we don't plan for mass arson. I'm able to make it to the supermarket just slightly north, where I find and eat a full can of oats. 1500 calories of dehydrating goodness. But unfortunately the burning Zeds have made it to me before I can escape, although I managed to sneak my way out with no issues. However, we can wave goodbye to the supermarket and anything that survived my initial looting run. Heading back towards the centre of town, I noticed the arcade is also ablaze. Not great, as I was planning on pinching some stuff to make my base look pretty. But whatever, I just eat sweeties watching the flames fully engulf the place. But now it's starting to get late, so I take the long walk backwards towards base, thankfully with no undead pricks following me. Honestly, no idea how nothing is following me. I guess they must have got stuck in a building along the way. Then after some very basic self-care, I head to bed, waking up nice and early on day 20. And for day I'm thinking we need an even bigger fire, so I collect all the scrap wood from my carpentry grind. But now, seeing as I'm out of shotgun ammo, I swap to the pistol and rifle combination. I then take the long walk back towards the charred remains of Rosewood. I light the campfire from the day before, then immediately show why the rifle was a terrible idea. But then, like a blind boxer, I eventually hit something. There we go, I got one. I then rush back to where the ambulance was, and this time I hotwire it, but unfortunately it's completely out of fuel. A bloody shame, as I definitely had plenty back at base. So time to revert back to plan C, D or E. With the sirens now on again, I start to circle the ambulance as the burning Zeds from the campfire get drawn towards the bigger picture. I even fire more shots off to make the most amount of noise as humanly possible. Although I had a better chance of shooting my shot with Scarlett Johansson than making an impact with this thing. I then head northbound as the embers from the day before start to reignite, firing even more shots off to draw the hordes from the northern section of the map. But I might as well be Darwin Núñez on benzos with this kind of accuracy. I now head south as the flames slowly take over the car park behind the row of shops. But is it just me, or the hordes starting to thin? I decide to risk eternal damnation and lead the burning horde through the church. I'm certainly not going to hell for this one. I slip out the side door as the horde makes its way through the church, and surprisingly I don't get immediately smited out of existence, proving once and for all God hated the architecture of this place. Absolutely hideous. I even tried to get cocky and attempt to burn down more of the town by leading a few that are left chasing me through the shops and into the car park behind, but choosing the clothes shop was a massive mistake. There was no route out to the back, but I managed to keep my calm and loop around the store and back out the front before any issues could arise. The final few Zeds burn off by the late afternoon, but before I make my way back to base, I decide to investigate the destruction I've made, which was a massive mistake as I cut myself climbing through a window. Yet another mistake I thought I'd learned to avoid. Heading through the neighbourhood, I hop a fence back into my compound, and high on painkillers and tobacco to keep off the pain, I head to bed. Waking up on day 21. And for the day after all that destruction in town, I decided it would be for the best to take it a little bit easy. I get back to building my wall. I found an additional axe in my terribly organised storage, although I only managed to cut down 5 trees before it breaks. But hey, at least I got enough logs for another 2 sections of my wall. Now I'm almost close to being halfway there. Yeah, this is gonna take fucking forever, isn't it? With that disappointment, I have an afternoon nap, then head out in search for more axes to cut down trees or material to fix the already broken axes. I find a multitude of tools, but sadly no axes. Why does nobody have glue? Do you lot not sniff anything these days? Overall, my looting spree was decent, but not overwhelming. A few rolls of duct tape and a single tube of wood glue wasn't enough to fix either of my broken axes. I've also collected a ton of empty gas canisters for when I next need to do a fuel run. So after sleeping off my frustration, we wake up on day 22. And my plan is to loot more of the neighbourhood garages and sheds in search to get my axes back to chopping condition. Although that gets off to a terrible start as I immediately get spotted, and while dealing with the threat we take major damage. Then while dealing with the rest of the threat, anxiety rushes over my body. Was it a bite? Was my run over already? Well no, not quite yet. Just a small laceration to my lower torso, and Stream Chat is adamant there's like a 25% chance of infection. But not for Molotov. She's built different. No zombie virus would be coursing through her veins, let me tell you now. Without an axe and forgetting the sledgehammer I'm still yet to use, progress of entering garages is slow and too often the reward is too low. While hungry, I break into the nearest house to grab a snack from their cupboards, before having to deal with another miniature horde, although this time was much less bleedy. I can find a hand axe in a nearby garage, although it's not ideal for chopping down trees, but at least it'll get the job done. And that is when it happens. The dreaded Queasy Moodle. Oh no. Every Zomboid player's worst nightmare. But is it from the laceration? Or did I eat some dodgy food earlier? Denial of the inevitable, I choose food poisoning as I fight off more of the undead. Now also ignoring the overheating moodle, which is obviously because of all the vigorous fighting I've been doing. Slowly I lose grip on reality, sticking anything metal in every microwave I come across just to feel the sweet endorphins of destruction. It's now late evening, so I decide to leave the neighbourhood burn while I call it a semi-successful day. Although that's being very generous if we're being honest. I get back to base and strip down to cool off, before heading to bed and waking up nice and early on day 23. Still queasy, still too hot. Denial slowly turns to realisation as my mortality is strewn before me. I start the morning off with cigarettes and wine to help me cope with the inevitable. Now inebriated, the thought of my impending doom doesn't seem so bad, so I sit on the floor and watch a film while knocking back beer after beer, mixed with a concoction of painkillers to really get the buzz going strong. Now overconfident with alcohol and prescription drugs in her system, Molly heads outside for a fight. Come on, you think you're having a go, is it that? Come on, fucking I'll half you now. Fucking everyone over here. But there was no one left to fight. Rosewood was now a crispy ghost town. Was Molly really gonna die alone? She collects a cowboy hat and boots off a nearby corpse before heading back home. She continues her alcohol abuse well into the evening before deciding this isn't how she goes out. Quivering, awaiting death. Fuck that. Live by the flame, die by the flame. She re-equips her trusty hockey mask and collects her remaining Molotovs. She throws the first into the garage and the second at the main building, but the spread is too slow, and unsatisfied with her effort, she heads back in, dropping another in the rec room, then torching her bedroom, before dropping her very final Molly downstairs. Oh god. Oh god. Oh god. There we go. What are we doing? What are we doing? Live by the flame, die by the flame. Molly Tolf has dropped her last Molly, but still her flaming corpse managed to spread havoc through the Rosewood fire station. She survived 23 days of the 100 she initially planned. Not fantastic, but her chaotic arsonist ways touched us all. Rest well, Molly. Rest well.